Many thanks for your time here. This is the AM News. Now, civil society organizations have opposed the approval of Ghana's lithium and bauxite mining lease in its current state. Government in 2018 entered into an agreement with mining company Barari DV Ghana Limited to undertake exploration and mining of lithium in Ewoya. But the opposition NDC and civil society organizations have questioned the terms of the agreement, calling on government to review the lease before approval. The delay in approval has forced chiefs of the area to petition Parliament to fast-track the agreement to allow the mining to commence. Parliament's Lands and Forestry Committee met with chiefs and CSOs over their concerns on the agreement. But former Majority Leader and MP for Suame, Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, however, warns any further delay in mining the mineral could lead to the loss of its value on the market.
Oya and Enyinehini lithium and bauxite mining leases have met stiff rejection from the minority and civil society organizations, causing a delay in parliamentary approval. Following a petition from the chiefs of the area, the Lands and Forestry Committee of Parliament invited the opposing groups to hear their concerns. The IEA, Imani, and two other CSOs who appeared before the committee insisted that the terms of the deal must be enhanced.
We see the lease, the lithium lease, as the concession, royalty, a tax type of lease. And we do not think that that type of lease is in the interest of the country.
You do processing, you're able to capture at least about 30% of the battery technology. And so that is why we are pushing that the focus of the agreement should really look at the beneficiation, that is the local value addition, and not the raw spodumene that will be mined.
Former Majority Leader and MP for Suame, Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, however, warns any further delay could lead to loss of value of the mineral on the market.
We should not think that it's an eternal resource. What is happening now? Pretty soon, if we are not careful, it may fall in the category of stranded assets. That is not to say that we should not approach it with some degree of caution.
The chiefs are insisting that Parliament approve the deal now to bring development to the people.
Mr. Chair, honorable members, Madaroma, woman in speaker, na bauxite lease no.
Total of about 500 structures, which are supposed to be completed, are halted.
Chairman of the committee, Francis Menu Adabo, promises to work on the report and forward to Parliament for action.
The report will be generated, it will be sent to plenary, and then the Speaker will decide. So if the minority, I'm not too sure whether all the minority will say no. Until we get there, I will know.
The minority, on the other hand, have boycotted the sitting to register their disagreement. James Aveji, Parliament House, Accra.
NPP flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has pledged to resource the police service to help fight crime in Ghana. According to the Vice President, plans have already been initiated to procure the logistics to ensure every street in Ghana has a CCTV to enable the police track every activity that happens on every corner of the country. Now, speaking at the commissioning of the Central East Police Headquarters in Kaswa, Dr. Bawumia said this will help in reducing the rate of crime in Ghana.
What I would like to see going down next year is to begin to support the police with CCTV cameras and across every street in every region and every district, so that we can see when we sit down every movement in every street, in every region, in every district capital in this country. And so we are bringing in 50,000 CCTV cameras that we are going to install in every region and every district. And that will allow the police to see what is going on every street, so that we can catch the criminals very quickly. So Ghana will be very different by the grace of God. And so we are asking for your support for us to do this.
He says the NPP government under Nana Akufo-Addo has done more for the Ghana Police Service than any other government has ever done.
And this building will contribute to the control and the enforcement of law in Ewutu Senya East. And I believe that we will provide the necessary resources to the police here to do their work. From our point of view, as a government, we have invested more in the police than any other government in the Fourth Republic. We've bought more vehicles, more uniforms, even 3 helicopters for the police for the first time in history. We've increased the size of the police force by about 40%, and we want to do more.
Moving on, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Titus Glover is blaming the owners of the China House building at Zongo Lane for the fire that ravaged the structure for 3 days. According to him, initial investigations suggest negligence by the owners. He said the warehouse was converted into a residential apartment with flammable materials stored on site. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in the following report.
These children are taking advantage of the situation, selling face masks to traders and commuters as the fire continues to emit thick smoke. It's been 3 days and firefighters are still battling the flames that have engulfed this building. The area has been cordoned from the public, with some shop owners salvaging whatever they can from their stores amidst the distraction. Greater Accra Regional Security Council, led by the Regional Minister Titus Glover, visited the site Tuesday afternoon for first-hand briefing on the inferno.
Some precautionary measures should have been taken. You cannot keep these highly inflammable materials, but you have the warehouse in the same building, you have your accommodation in the same building, and you have your shops in the same building. So clearly you could see that there is a challenge somewhere like this. In fact, it's serving also as a warehouse. You need to have a separate place to have these warehouses that you can go and cut them and bring them to the market.
According to him, the integrity of the building has been compromised, hence the need to demolish it for safety reasons.
And structurally, you can see that this building, most of them will have to pull down, because when you look at the integrity of it from hindsight, it's very, very weak.
Director of Operations for the Ghana National Fire Service, Assistant Chief Fire Officer 2, Joseph Kofi Forsen, says the efforts are focused on preventing the fire from spreading to adjacent buildings, but he is unsure when the fire will be completely extinguished.
What we are doing is let's do the effective cooling. Let's give ourselves maybe by today, tomorrow. See that we have been able to douse the fire. We look at the intensity of the building, the structural intensity of the building. Then we can commit men inside. If, I'm saying if, we can commit men from the peripheries. We enter and we see, then we can totally come out and say that fire has been extinguished.
The government is awaiting the results of a full investigation before taking further action. But for now, the focus remains on controlling the fire and ensuring public safety. Emmanuel Jivenu for Joy News.
Academic work at Adom MA Junior High School in the Wioso municipality of the Western North region is under threat due to the deteriorating condition of the school's over 20-year-old building. Once a source of pride for the Adom community and the wider Wioso municipality, the school is now struggling to maintain its standard of academic excellence. Without urgent intervention to address the building's condition, the school may cease to function in the coming years. Nathalia Kwansa reports.
20 years ago, Adom MA JHS was the pride of the Wioso community. a double-stream school with a reputation for academic excellence. It drew students from all corners of the region. Edith Nkatia, a former student, now a teacher, recalls a time when the school was filled with eager students and dedicated teachers.
Okundom used to be one of the populated schools in Yosu. In fact, it was a privilege to be in this school because of the academic performance and all that. When I was here, it was a double stream school. Yeah, that's A and B. But as time went on, the building was not good and the teachers had to move those in the A block to the B block, making the school now a single stream. You can see the state of the building is very bad and it's not safe for the kids to be inside. Due to that, the school is now a single stream. And the population too is reducing. Okundom is one of the greatest schools in this community. And it has really produced prominent people here. And we will not wish for the school to just collapse. Because without a feeding school, in about 10 years to come, I'm not sure this school will be in existence.
The challenges faced by Okundom MAJHS go beyond its physical deterioration. The absence of a primary school means that the JHS struggles to maintain its enrollment, accepting students from other schools who often arrive with low academic performance.
Any student from any school who is poor in academics, we just admit the person here because we want enrollment. In fact, if you don't use that way, the school will be closed down. So because of that, teachers here have been suffering. In fact, me myself teaching mathematics. In fact, I'm suffering as a teacher. Now, looking at the performance of the students, assessing them when they write their BEC, now it has dropped drastically. We will not even find ourselves placing in that category first up to 7th. We are not there. We are no more. But at first, Okundom was at that height.
The lack of basic amenities like a proper canteen, a functioning toilets, only adds to the school's woes.
The environment is too poor for us to live in it. And sometimes too, we feel like we are abandoned by the government.
The government have been focusing on much capital city like Accra and Kumasi because the government have been furnishing them with more laptops and computers, but they are not much focused at this place.
Despite the overwhelming challenges, there is a spark of hope. Edith and other former students have begun rallying support, organizing small-scale renovation and seeking help from the community. But these efforts, while admirable, are not enough to save the school.
It's only this part that has been renovated about 2 years ago. And it was even done by PTA and the teachers. We came together to do that renovation. So the government hasn't done any renovation here. And I learned Master has been going to the district assembly, writing to them, seeking for help, but there hasn't been any help.
The dedication of its teachers and former students is commendable, but they cannot do it alone. The school needs help, and it needs it now.
It's very bitter because of late the school was double stream, A and B, and now currently it has turned to one stream, which is too bad. The school that has A and B, now it has been only one. What's happened? All this goes about the state of the school. It's because of the state of the school. If you look at the paint that it has been painted currently, it was the performance of the school itself. Whilst we have even some of our authorities are former students from this school. I can mention Honorable Kwabre Mita Akando. He completed here. He completed from this Okundom school. And I hope the authorities of the school has called upon their help, but still no one is responding to their call. So we feel pain. We feel pain. We need a support. We need a support for the school, for its development and growth. So if the authorities are listening to please, we are calling, all students are calling upon, especially our big, let me say the big men, those they completed here and they are now in a high position in the country. Please, I, Kwesifi Isaac, former student, calling upon all those people to come and help the school.
Walls of Okundom MHHs continue to crumble. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwanza, Western North Region.
From Okundom in the West North region, let's talk about the dry spell. These delayed rains in 8 food-growing regions of Ghana have resulted in government's desperate measures to guard against food insecurity. But agriculture economist Dr. Robert Adom says the current impact of dry spell on food security is only a symptom of a long neglect of irrigation by the country. From Kumasi, Nanaya Ojima brings you today's edition of Climate Focus.
Ghana's agriculture is mainly rain-fed. Most parts of the country have 2 planting seasons dependent on the rainfall pattern. The major cropping season is between June and August, while September to October is the minor. Most farmers were expecting their crops to be ready for harvesting in August. Unfortunately, most crops have failed to fruit due to prolonged dry spell, with farmers losing their investment. Dr. Shalom Adodanso, a senior research scientist with Ghana's Forestry Research Institute, explains the vulnerability of farmers to weather changes and climate variability.
Temperature is increasing, rainfall has become erratic. But now you have a situation where sometimes you have a very intense rainfall, but within a short time. Then it can also be accompanied by dry spell durations. So it is very clear. The main issue is, how do you now adapt?
Agabuga in the Pro East district of the Bono region is among the worst affected communities by the dry spell in the country. Most people here are farmers who have heavily relied on agriculture for their livelihoods. Campena Betra, who is in his early 30s, made a decision to expand his maize farm from 3 to 5 acres for this planting season. With the heavy investment on labor, seedlings and chemicals, he was expecting a bumper harvest, but the young farmer is witnessing the opposite.
We were expecting rains in June and July, but it never came. The maize should be fruiting by now, but it is not. The weather does not support farming. It may lead to shortage of food on the market.
Walking through the farm, the soil is dried up. Most of the maize plants here are turning brown from the green leafy ones normally noticed with healthy plants. The corn ears which house the cobs are dried, affecting the development of the kernel. Jacob Naja weaves through his yam farm as he hopes for the rains. The delay in rains have prolonged the readiness of the tuber for harvesting, but the farmer continues to be expectant. With good rains, the tuber could be ready for market in the next few weeks.
We farm maize and granules as well. They are all not doing well now. This year, we will need the government support to cater for our families. We pray they have pity on us.
To many farmers, poor irrigation continues to be the bane of productivity, with no deliberate effort by successive governments to deal with the situation. The government's One Village, One Dam program, which was aimed at ensuring continuous supply of water for irrigation, failed to help mitigate the dry spell period. Agric Minister Brian Echampon attributes the ongoing dry spell to climate change, stressing the core issue is not irrigation, but the shifting weather patterns. Agriculture economist Professor Robert Adom, however, explains poor implementation of the irrigation program has negatively affected efficiency.
The idea was fantastic, because if those dams were working, then at least those in those communities will have access to water, which they can use to irrigate. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be across so many villages, and it was a bit overwhelming. I think that going forward, if government can focus, then within, let's say, a district, if you can even have just 4 places where you can have irrigation scheme that is working, it will help.
Dr. Ado Danson says farmers would also need to diversify their livelihood investments and reduce their exposure to climate risk.
Their imprint on climate change is also reduced so that the practices that they are doing does not lead to increase in the release of greenhouse gases. So for instance, using different varieties of crop is very important. Cropping at different times, so like crop rotation. These things that in the past our farmers, they know already, but the only thing is that we back it with the science. Then incorporating trees into their farming system, especially cocoa, is very, very important. So, sometimes they're not really fixing species. For us as research institutions, if you go to Crop Research Institute, under the Council for Science and Industrial Research, these are some of the things that you are looking at. Savannah Agricultural Research Institute also, looking at some of the varieties that are tolerant to drought, or now, for me, even to flooding conditions, so they can stay in water and still probably survive.
Few months to the 2024 general elections, the 2 leading political parties who have played active roles in governance are proposing solutions in their manifestos. For Joy News, Nanaya Ochima, Bono East.
Let's do some business stories now. Director General of the State Interest and Governance Authority, John Boydu, has admitted that certain activities of government can be blamed for the huge losses recorded in the 2022 financial reports of some state-owned firms. According to him, the implementation of the domestic debt exchange program has caused huge losses for firms in the financial sector. John Boydu spoke to Joy Business during an engagement on the state ownership report in Accra. Here's more.
According to the State Interest and Governance Authority, SIGA, the performance of the state-owned enterprises have contributed about 27% of the country's domestic growth product, an increase of more than 50% from the previous performance. The banking and financial sector recorded huge losses due to the implementation of domestic debt exchange program, which many of the banks were involved. According to Director General John Boydu, most of the losses are within reasonable course as some provide social services to support the economy.
We can see clearly the impact of some government activities and government decisions impacting negatively on some of the entities, particularly in 2022. You realize as a result of the DDEP, a lot of the entities, particularly those in the financial sector, made huge losses. Clearly, you can see that most of them are recovering, and we want to continue to insist that timely and real-time reporting of our activities of our entities are the way to go.
About 147 entities across the country were covered in this year's State of Ownership report, recording the highest number of coverage since the inception of the report.
Total profits of commercial banks for the first 6 months of this year witnessed some significant increase. New Bank of Ghana data puts the amount at 8.1 billion Ghana cedis ending June this year. There's more in the following report.
The Bank of Ghana data, however, showed the rate of increase compared to last year slowed. According to the Bank of Ghana, this was due to lower increases in interest income and other income lines in 2024 relative to the same period in 2023. Generally, all income lines increased but at a lower growth rate in June 2024 relative to the same period last year. Interest income increased to 18 billion Ghana cedis, representing a growth of 19.1% relative to 44.3% in June 2023. When we look at the profit after tax, it increased significantly to 5.4 billion in June 2024. The report by the Bank of Ghana showed that, despite the challenging economic environment, the banking sector was not doing that bad if one restricts itself just to the numbers.
Let's go for our currency markets update now. And that brings us to the end of the AM News Bulletin. You want to stay for the news review segment. Dr. Kwame Asasante joins us. He's the head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. In a bit, we'll be back on your screens.